Because being successful shouldn't have anything to do with who we are, our state of being, but we are still limiting ourselves because it's still about comparing ourselves to this based on.
So I would say that you actually bring up a bigger issue of just inclusivity in the Black culture and community in general. What community do I fall into? Because I can go into one Black community and say, no, you're watered down. I go to the white community and say, no, you're money.
But what happens to the folks on the inside who realize that they are being abused and torn apart and they can't do anything about it?
In terms of symptoms, funding that helps pay for HIV meds but not accepted by all pharmacies, the cost of medicine, the requirement of HIV people to go to abusive spaces.
We talk about capitalism and we want to take it away, but what do we replace it with? And for people who want some sort of currency, people who want to feel valid, people who want to feel powerful, money is there. The only thing that I know that's bigger than money is love.
Hello, my name is Reggie Greer, and I am Director of Priority Placement and Senior Advisor on LGBTQ+ engagement at the White House. Welcome to the National Black Justice Coalition's James Baldwin Legacy Awards. Your dedication, leadership, and the guidance of so many of you have advanced the work of LGBTQIA, SGL rights across the country. Today, we are also here to honor James Baldwin and his brilliance. James Baldwin said in his letter to his nephew, "Know from whence you came. If you know whence you came, there's absolutely no limitations to where you can go." Your participation in NBJC's inaugural event is a testament to where you come and where we can all go together. We're working towards a society that lifts up and celebrates all of us, especially those of us on the margins. Through their policies and engagement, President Biden and Vice President Harris have been working to make LGBTQ+ equality a focal point of this administration. But really, it is your work that has brought Black, Brown, API, and Indigenous LGBTQ+ people to the table. And as someone who's Black, gay, and disabled, I'm fortunate to see and share the foundation that you have laid for future generations to come. It's precisely because you spoke out, advocated for our inclusion at all levels of society, that we have a chance to go to that place that James Baldwin dreamt of. Best wishes to you all for a great program.
Thank you, Brother Reggie, for kicking things off today. For those of you who have not had the pleasure of meeting virtually or in person, my name is David Johns, and it is an extreme delight to have the honor of being the Executive Director of the National Black Justice Coalition. I also want to welcome you to the James Baldwin Legacy Awards. We, as a team, are humbled by the opportunity to celebrate our trailblazers, to highlight the contributions that Black, queer, same-gender loving, bi, trans, gay brothers make to improve opportunities and outcomes for members of our beautifully diverse community. In addition to our trailblazers, I'm especially excited about some of the torchbearers that you'll hear from. These are brothers who've got now and who are leading from the front lines across industries, various industries and sectors in the spirit and the legacy of Black excellence. We are honored to host this virtual convening on National Senior Citizens Day. Too often, brothers, especially brothers in our community, are forgotten about. And the contributions we make are either ignored or erased. And this problem is acute as we grow older and mature and become wiser. And we are especially thankful to our partners at AARP for helping us to honor and celebrate these important members of our community. It is with this partnership in mind that I invite you all to watch this video from our friends and sponsor for this event, AARP.
What would you call a joy that knows no bounds? That is as solemn as it is sweet, with an outpouring of soul that connects us. Joy in resilience, joy in creativity, joy in happiness, joy in strength. What would you call a joy that knows no bounds? A joy supreme. AARP celebrates Black joy Visit us at aarp.org/Black community.
Hello, everyone. On behalf of all of us at AARP and our over 38 million members, I bring heartfelt greetings. I'm Shani Hostin, and I'm blessed to serve as Vice President of AARP, leading our African American and Black audience strategy and our LGBTQ audience strategy work in the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. More than 33 years since his death, the powerful writings of James Baldwin continue to resonate strongly to this day. He was known for living his life out loud and aligning his work with social justice, civil, and human rights issues. AARP's unwavering commitment to the LGBTQ+ SGL community reflects our core belief in the dignity, worth, and potential of every individual. Our core mission is to empower people to choose how they live as they age. This includes feeling connected to family, friends, and community. It means equality in managing issues like health concerns, employment, affordable housing, and freedom to live your truth without fear and with equality under the law. Ageism is a real thing, and we fight every day to rewrite the narratives and attitudes that force many into isolation and negatively impacts a person's quality of life. AARP is proud to re-endorse the Equality Act, which provides equal treatment under the law for individuals by prohibiting discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity. Additionally, we sponsor events like today's to educate, support, and demonstrate our solidarity with LGBTQ+ SGL communities nationwide. To learn more about AARP and our growing commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion work, please check out our website at aarp.org/pride. We are grateful for the opportunity to share in this work with the National Black Justice Coalition. Through the Baldwin Legacy Awards, we honor the brilliance and spirit of LGBTQ+ SGL voices that have inspired a movement and those who carry that baton forward. We celebrate your unwavering commitment to the Black community as you shine a light on the accomplishments, achievements, experiences, and wisdom of Black LGBTQ SGL elders. Thank you, friends and allies of the National Black Justice Coalition, as you uphold its legacy. Shine on.
I believe every time someone says the word Save Gender Loving, Uncle Jimmy and Brother Bayard and our ancestors do a little jig in heaven. It is now my honor to introduce my friend and sponsoring partner and our brother in the movement, Dr. Nee Cordelai-Corte. He serves as AARP's Senior Advisor and National LGBTQ Liaison. Outside of AARP, among the many things that he commits his time, talent, and treasures to, serving on the board as a secretary for the National Foster Youth Institute, as well as a chair of Washington, D.C. Mayor's LGBTQ Advisory Commission. Beyond all of the work that he does as a torchbearer and a race warrior, I'm thankful for his friendship. Nee is someone who shows up in the true sense of the word brotherhood and friendship, and I am a better man because of my relationship to him. He will serve as our MC for the duration of the program until I'm able to join you all later, and I can step back knowing that you are in capable and beautiful hands. It is with that I turn things over to you, my brother.
Thank you, David. It has been incredible to support your leadership at the National Black Justice Coalition. And I can't tell you how much AARP is really honored to serve as a host and as a partner to this powerful event, paying tribute to Black LGBTQ same-gender loving elders and the enduring legacy of James Baldwin. You know, each Baldwin honoree will receive a toast from someone who's also carried a torch. And it's my honor in that spirit to introduce Reverend Cedric Harmon. Reverend Harmon works with Black religious leaders and communities to educate them about religion, sexuality, and to create safe spaces and equality within churches for the Black LGBTQ community. As a fellow faith leader, Reverend Cedric Harmon will now toast the very first openly gay imam in the world, Imam Dayi Abdullah.
It's my delight to join with NBJC this evening and sharing my reflections on a dear friend and a colleague, one that has done quite a bit to advance the lives of LGBTQI plus individuals, especially as they are observers of Islam. And as a Muslim leader, Imam Dayi Abdullah is who I am speaking of. Imam Dayi is a proud child of Detroit. He is a gentle spirit. He is a fierce advocate. He's a brilliant mind, and he's a loving force. And most of all, he's a reliable friend. I am Reverend Cedric Harmon, co-founder and executive director of Many Voices, a Black church movement for gay and transgender justice. We were founded in Washington, D.C. a little over a decade ago. I met Dayi in Washington, D.C., his second home. And when I met Imam Dayi, I met him doing exactly what he has done for nearly 30 some odd years. He was being an advocate and a voice for spirituality and sexuality and basic human rights. We met as a result of work that we were both doing with NBJC, and we were doing with the National LGBTQ Task Force, and we were doing work with the Human Rights Campaign. So as you can get a sense, Imam Dayi has broad reach and connections in the movement for equality. What I know about Imam Dayi is that since the 1970s, he has been a force for change. He's been always present at moments of change. Now, I did not know him in 1979 when he was an organizer of the National March on Washington for Lesbian and Gay Rights. I did know him when we worked together winning marriage equality in Washington, D.C., which was achieved in 2009. And I continue to know him and speak with him regularly as he has become the co-founder, executive director of Mecca Institute, Muslim Education Center for Creative Academics. What I want to say is that he is a breakthrough leader as the first openly gay imam in the Americas. Imam Dayi knows the law. He studied the law in Washington, D.C. He knows his faith. He has studied and speaks various languages associated with Islam. He is a Muslim leader extraordinaire. He is married and officiated the weddings of couples, straight and gay. Imam Dayi is a breakthrough leader. What I know about Imam Dayi also is he understands love. He understands love as a force. He actually understands love as James Baldwin understands love. Love is active, spiritual, political force. And Imam Dayi works from that place to change the world, and especially to change the world of Muslim followers and practitioners. And so, for these reasons, I am certain that Imam Dayi Abdullah is very deserving, and I am happy to present him the James Baldwin Legacy Award from the National Black Justice Coalition.
Wow, congratulations, Imam Dayi Abdullah. Now it's my honor to introduce Damon Jones, the Chief Communications Officer at Procter & Gamble. Damon has been at the forefront of crafting how P&G's advertising advocates for gender and racial equality. I have enormous respect for the Widen the Screen initiative that he has pioneered that aims to increase Black representation in film, TV, and the ad industry across all touch points of the creative process. Damon will now toast former Executive Vice President of Booz Allen Hamilton, the Reggie Van Lee.
It's an honor to be a torchbearer for the National Black Justice Coalition, and even more of an honor to present one of this year's James Baldwin Legacy Awards to Mr. Reginald Van Lee. Now, many, many words come to mind when one thinks about Reggie, but starting with a few of his own: courage, confidence, competence, and community. But when one looks at his extraordinarily successful 32-year corporate career, a distinguished life of service to arts and humanitarian organizations across the nation, philanthropic leadership that has helped communities see themselves and others in a different light, and mentorship to dozens that know him personally and hundreds who may not, but for whom he is the torch, a few more come to mind. Leadership, family, commitment, values, and service. But it isn't in any one of these single words that captures Reggie's spirit. It's the fact that he is all of these things and all of them authentically and simultaneously. Reggie sets the pace, sometimes quietly, sometimes not, but always in a spirit that is needed. Reggie's reflective and deliberate, mindful in how he invests his time and energy into those things, causes, and people that can have generational legacy. Reggie also knows who he is and whose he is, sharing frequently the stories of his humble beginnings, but the core values that underpin them and that are the foundation for the many heights he's had both personally and professionally. You know, one of the biggest reflections of the impact we can have is the nature of the people that want to be in your presence. Reggie, we are grateful to be in your presence. You've set the pace for me as a leader in corporate America, me as a gay black man, and many others. So thank you for the example of excellence that you have set for not just me, but for many others. It's one hell of a roadmap, and we're destined to follow. Reggie, we are grateful to be in your presence. Thank you for the example of excellence that you have set for me and so many others. It's one hell of a roadmap and one we're destined to follow. It is my distinct honor and privilege to present the James Baldwin Legacy Award to Mr. Reginald Van Lee.
Wow, Damon, thank you for that. I barely recognize the guy you were talking about, and I'm humbled by your very kind, your very generous words. But I wouldn't have had the opportunity to do things I've done had it not been for many of the men who are also being honored alongside me. So my congratulations and thanks to them for their inspiration and their encouragement over the many years. I'm reminded of my favorite quote in the world, which is a Mark Twain quote, where he said, "The two most important days of your life are the day you're born and the day you understand why." And it's moments like this that remind me of why I was born and why I'm on this earth and what it really is my purpose, to both encourage and be encouraged by some of the great men that are being honored alongside me. So I cannot thank you enough. I can't thank James Baldwin enough posthumously, the National Black Justice Coalition, David Johns, and all of you for this amazing distinction and honor. I thank you.
Congratulations, Reggie. And now I want to turn to another torch bearer. It's my honor to introduce Earl Folks, the president and CEO of the Center for Black Equity. Earl's work has strengthened the international movement for social, economic, and cultural equality for the Black LGBTQ community. Earl Folks will now toast the co-founder of the first national advocacy organization for Black LGBTQ SGL people, the National Coalition of Black Lesbians and Gays, A. Billy Jones Hennon.
Hi, my name is Earl Folks. I'm the president and CEO of the Center for Black Equity, and I'm here today with the privilege of honoring someone who I've grown to admire from afar and admire close up, A. Billy Jones Hennon. He's a South Carolina, Virginia boy, and we have similar backgrounds because my father's from Virginia and my mother's from South Carolina. I met A. Billy about 25 years ago in DC, but I actually met him before I moved to DC at a conference in New Jersey, and I was just in awe. First of all, we had so few role models in our community, and this was a person who was involved in so many organizations, so many activities, more than I could possibly name in the time that's been allotted to me. But I watched him and I've grown to admire him and also to respect the work he's done, because he's done the work that I'm doing now, but he laid the pathway for me. He built the road that many of us are traveling along, and we need to know who he was and remember him for what the work he's done and he continues to do. He's a father, a grandfather, a great-grandfather. He's bisexual, and not a lot of people claim that. And that's important for people who are bisexual to make the B stand up in our community. So it's not just LGQT, but there's a B in the middle there. And the other thing that I admire the most about A. Billy, he actually did a lot of work around race relations before it was even popular. He understood that we need to work out some of the issues between Black and white queer people. And he started doing that in the 70s. And a lot of the work that he's done, again, laying the groundwork, laying the foundation, that people who do equality work and human rights work today, it started because of the stuff A. Billy was doing. I have been privileged to be around this man so many times, doing my work with Black Pride, doing my work with human rights, HIV/AIDS. This man has really, really been a guiding light for me and people like me. And I hope that in the future that we have more A. Billies around to guide young people to a better place and lead our country to a better place. I am privileged and honored to respectfully say that A. Billy is a friend, he's a colleague, and someone who I really greatly admire, and I'm so proud that he's being honored in this way. I am honored to present the James Baldwin Legacy Award to my good friend and colleague for all the work he's done in our community.
Thank you very much, Earl. I am indeed honored, and I accept this honor and this award on behalf, not just me, but the other leaders who often are not known. Reverend Dolores Berry, Brother John G., both have passed away, but also still with us, Gil Gerald, Reverend Darlene Garner, Lewis Hughes, for their trusting the vision that we had to move forward and to find ways to mobilize the Black LGBTQ community. And I especially am appreciative of the fact that my bisexuality was not a barrier, but a plus as we move forward, to recognize that there is still work to be done in terms of, for me, my focus now is just with the brothers and sisters in rural and southern areas of the U.S. and globally, what is going on in our African nations in which even our allies have been suppressed. And so we definitely still have work to do. And I just want to really thank the National Black Justice Coalition and AARP for this honor, and I'm most appreciative. Thank you.
Thank you to A. Billy Jones Hennon for being a phenomenal trailblazer and organizer and movement builder. And on behalf of AARP and NBJC, we are proud to honor you. Now with that, we want to introduce Joseph Nelson, an assistant professor in the Department of Educational Studies at Swarthmore College and chair of the Black Studies program. Joseph has done some pretty important research that primarily examines race, boyhood, and education within learning environments that largely serve Black students from neighborhoods with concentrated poverty. Joseph Nelson will now toast National Black Justice Coalition co-founder and really an inspiration to so many of us, Keith Boykin.
Good morning, everyone. I'm excited to be here with all of you. And thank you, David Johns, for this wonderful opportunity to celebrate one of the esteemed honorees for the inaugural James Baldwin Legacy Award with the National Black Justice Coalition. And that honoree being none other than author, journalist, and activist Keith Boykin, who was also one of the pioneering co-founders of the National Black Justice Coalition itself, and the first openly gay White House aide serving during the President Bill Clinton's administration. Again, I'm Dr. Joseph Nelson. I'm an associate professor in the Department of Educational Studies at Swarthmore College, chair of the Black Studies program, and affiliated faculty with the Gender and Sexuality Studies program. If I may share, Keith and I have been dear friends and colleagues for over 15 years now, when I moved to New York City to begin my doctoral studies. And undoubtedly, Keith's overall impact on the queer Black community has been tremendous. He's been a fearless leader, relentless in his efforts to advocate for Black LGBTQIA+ rights, partnering with us to tell our stories of triumph and trauma, and efforts to heal us and grow ourselves, and all while centering his identity as a Black gay man in America, but in the greater service of equity and justice for all Black people. So Keith was very helpful to me in a phase of my career when I was working on my very first book project. And I remember asking him for advice around how to just stay focused and stay true to what it is, the narratives that I wanted to share within this particular book. And I just found him to be so comforting and encouraging and also honest and maintaining high expectations. This must be the best book that you write on this topic. And for that, I'm just truly grateful for him in that regard during that low point when I was struggling with writing my own very first book. And yes, I know Keith has been an inspiration to countless others over the course of his career. And I am deeply honored and thrilled to be presenting this deserving James Baldwin Legacy Award to my dear friend and colleague and mentor, Keith Boykin.
Thank you for that beautiful introduction. And thank you to the National Black Justice Coalition for this honor. It is a privilege to be included in this distinguished group of awardees for the James Baldwin Legacy Award, the inaugural event of the James Baldwin Legacy Awards. And to be here is an honor, particularly because when we started this organization, the National Black Justice Coalition, in 2003, we had no idea that this organization would grow into what it has now become. We did have an idea that we were following in the footsteps of heroes like James Baldwin, who was an author and activist who inspired me to do what I've done in my life. It's a privilege to be here today. It's a privilege to share this virtual stage with so many distinguished other awardees. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for allowing me to be here to be a part of this wonderful inaugural event. Thank you.
Congratulations, Keith. Very, 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 very well deserved. I actually remember being a kid or much younger and seeing Keith on TV commentating and seeing him channel his activism in so many creative ways. And he is just as much of an inspiration now as he was then. And so congratulations again, my friend, on that award. Now it's my honor to introduce Carter Brown, the founder and national executive director of Black Trans Men Incorporated. Carter has built upon his own experience as a Black trans man to help empower and advocate for equality for the many other Black trans men. Carter Brown will toast the founder of the Trans People of Color Coalition, Kyler Brodus.
1963 was a pivotal time of change in our history, the Civil Rights era. Social and political activists like James Baldwin were prominent voices. And specifically, on August 28th of 1963, two very important events took place. There was the March on Washington, and Kyler William Brodus was born, who later became a social and political activist bearing the torch in the fight for equality. Hi, I'm Carter Brown. I'm the founding director of the Black Trans Advocacy Coalition, and I'm proud to be a Black trans man. I can stand and say that with pride and confidence today because of the work that men like Kyler Brodus did years ahead. The self-described man of trans experience is a lawyer, professor, activist, public speaker, and writer. He works as operations officer at the Transgender Legal Defense and Education Fund, and he's the founder and CEO of the Trans People of Color Coalition. Kylar was well into his career as a successful attorney before he openly identified as a transgender man. The discrimination he endured was a catapult of the legacy that we honor here today. Kylar is a personal inspiration and a mentor for me as our paths for advocacy greatly parallel. I too was outed as transgender in the workplace and endured much discrimination that later led to termination. And I was absolutely devastated. It changed the course of my life. But right around that time that I was going through this, Kylar was testifying before the U.S. Senate Committee regarding employment discrimination rights for transgender people. I would later follow in his footsteps as I testified before Congress regarding the Equality Act. A quote from James Baldwin says, "Children may have never been very good at listening to their elders, but they've never failed to imitate them." Now, as Mr. Broda stands as an elder in the trans community, I have great hopes that I, along with so many others, will also continue to imitate his thirst for equality. I've imitated his boldness to be visible as a Black trans man and a voice for anti-trans legislation and systemic discrimination. Brodus has received a number of accolades throughout his career from GLAAD, the New York Bar Association, the Black Trans Advocacy Coalition, the Advocate, and countless others. But I want to thank the National Black Justice Coalition for giving me the opportunity to present this James Baldwin Legacy Award to my dear friend and mentor, Mr. Kylar Brodus.
National Black Justice Coalition, as many of you know, is home to me, and I laud the work that NBJC does and has done for years. Many of you know me through the National Black Justice Coalition. So first of all, thanks for having this wonderful day, and thanks to the many gentlemen I'm sharing this day with. Secondly, James Baldwin brings me to tears. I remember reading one of his books in junior high, and very few authors got my heart, but James Baldwin got me at James Baldwin's first few words. And so I'm honored to be a James Baldwin honoree as well as a National Black Justice Coalition honoree. And both of those get me right at the heart. For a kid that couldn't cry, who learned to cry through a movement, both of those get me in the heart. Thirdly, James Baldwin's quote of being known and ties into what Carter Brown just said. Once there was a coming out, there was never a going back for a shy kid from a rural area who never spoke many words. Now, many of you don't think I ever stopped speaking. And when it comes to justice of any kind on any level, I don't. I'm in the courtroom, I'm in the policy shop, and I'm everywhere. And I will continue to be. And I don't feel like an elder in a movement. I still feel like a youth in a movement, although many physical things continue to happen to our bodies and our minds. I will always be there. I will always be fighting. And so I'm honored. And again, thank you for this honor. This is when we're honored by our peers, I think that's one of the best accolades there can be. And so to be honored by the National Black Justice Coalition, and for me, that is a special honor indeed. So thank you very much, and to be honored again by the James Baldwin Award, and with the gentleman I'm here honored today, and the work that has been done to this point. is fabulous. So thank you again, and I congratulate everyone here today. And we've got several gentlemen who you guys may not know that are here with us, just by grace. So I send them much love, and I send everybody much love. So thank you very much. And again, thank you to the National Black Justice Coalition. And I don't want to forget AARP. My mind just pings me to say that in being a partner in this event. So thank you as well.
Thank you, Brother Kyler. AARP, we send our love and appreciation right back to you. It is now my honor to introduce Deshaun Usher, Program Officer for Communities of Color at GLAD, and the founder and executive director of Mobilizing Our Brothers Initiative, MOBI. Deshaun Usher will now toast co-founder of the International Black Pride Movement, Ernest Hopkins.
Hi, everyone. My name is Deshaun Usher, Associate Director, Communities of Color at GLAD, and the founder and executive director of Mobilizing Our Brothers Initiative. I have the extreme pleasure of welcoming my friend and presenting to Ernest Hopkins. Ernest Hopkins was born on March 29th, which makes him an Aries, a fire sign that's fueled by natural-born strengths like courage, determination, confidence, optimism, honesty, and passion. For many people that know Ernest, they can attest that these things are true. I first met Ernest at the NASM conference in Oakland, California in 2008. And Ernest was my possibility model that I could be a Black gay man in leadership and not just on the front lines, which made me want to learn more about Ernest and the work that he did. Ernest currently serves as the Director of Legislative Affairs at the San Francisco AIDS Foundation and has led the federal policy and legislative activities at the San Francisco AIDS Foundation since 1997. Another possibility model of working and staying the course to do the work. Taking a glance into Ernest's contributions to Black LGBT culture, he co-founded the first Black Gay and Lesbian Pride Day in 1991. Which was exactly 30 years ago, and which helped to fund critical services for people living with HIV/AIDS in Washington, D.C. And this event eventually spawned into international movements of Black Pride events across the world, which we thank you, as so many people have been able to get their life, celebrate, and find community still today. And in 2021, this year, DC Black Pride renamed their Unsung Hero Award to the Ernest Hopkins Award. I can say that I've gotten to work with Ernest and see his leadership firsthand through the National Black Gay Men's Advocacy Coalition, being able to work up under him while we were doing the Young Black Gay Men's Leadership Initiative, to more recently with the work of the coalition that we've been doing with United We Rise. It has been Ernest's skills, strategy, and strength that I've witnessed that has continuously allowed me to understand and navigate the world, and has empowered me to continue to make changes every day. It is my esteemed pleasure and honor to present Ernest Hopkins with the James Baldwin Legacy Award.
Thrilled to be receiving the award, but also being introduced by a young person. So thank you very much, Deshaun, our leader of today and the future. Thank you so much to NBJC for the honor of an award named after James Baldwin. And I'd be remiss if I did not acknowledge the early days of the founding of NBJC and bring into the room some of the people who were instrumental at the time in my involvement, and they include Mandy Carter, Jazz Mechanic, H. Alexander Robinson, Keith Boykin, Maurice Franklin, and Mayor Ken Reeves. Those were important days. And I think it cannot be lost on us that NBJC was created in order to further the civil rights of LGBTQ Black people in an environment where we already had LGBTQ civil rights organizations. And so we have to really remember and note the fact that we found that necessary in that moment. And we worked very hard to ensure that the Black community was sensitized to what needed to happen in our community, but also that the LGBTQ community, predominantly white leadership, was sensitized to what they needed to do more of for the Black community. I'd also like to thank Earl Folks, who was seen earlier, and the team at the Center for Black Equity, who have taken what we created back in 1991 as a response to the HIV pandemic and has furthered that work, but also increased the work of the LGBTQ community around the Black diaspora all over the world. And I really honor and appreciate that work and the legacy that it allows for all of us to benefit from over time. History is with us, it lives with us and amongst us. And to receive an award named after James Baldwin is really an amazing honor. I actually had the great good fortune of meeting him a couple of times. The first time was when I was living on 94th Street around the corner from the bar where his brother David was bartending. And I saw him on the street on Columbus Avenue, and he had a bunch of newspapers under his arm and a satchel, and he asked me for directions. Imagine James Baldwin asking for direction. And it was my honor to give it to him and point him in the right direction. And then on another occasion, I had come in, I'd left an event and decided to go to Elaine's for dinner late at night. And I walked into the room, and Elaine sat me within gawking distance of James Baldwin having dinner with Maya Angelou, June Jordan, and Nikki Giovanni. I know that she knew I knew who they were, and I know that she knew that I wouldn't act the fool by disturbing them. And so I sat there having my dinner and marveling at my good fortune. Good fortune. I'm so blessed. So blessed to have worked with so many people over the years who've taught me so much. So blessed to have had parents and grandparents who instilled in me a sense of service. And my contributions come from the learnings and the teachings that I received from all of them. Whatever I have been able to achieve in my life was because of them. And my commitment is to move forward and serve in their name. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Brother Ernest. Thank you for sharing that story, very moving story. You know, we don't always get to reach out and touch our heroes and sheroes, and let alone sit next to them in restaurants and, in your case, give them directions. What an incredible story, and what an incredible journey in activism. And so our salute to you. It's now our honor to introduce Gabriel Maldonado, a good personal friend. We go way back to our activism days in California. Gabriel is the executive director and CEO of True Evolution. Through his work, Gabriel has blazed trails, talking about trailblazers, right? Gabriel has blazed trails around the inclusion of comprehensive HIV prevention and care services, mental health clinics, emergency supportive housing programs, and housing for LGBTQ people of color. Gabriel Maldonado will now toast Chief Policy Advisor for the United States Global AIDS Coordinator and Health Diplomacy in the U.S. State Department, Cornelius Baker.
My name is Gabriel Maldonado. I'm the founder and CEO of True Evolution. We are a Black-Brown led CBO in Riverside, California. And my introduction to policy and social justice began as an NBJC emerging leader and later as a part of the organization's 100 to Watch initiative, nearly over a decade now. And it has certainly been a journey to not only experience my own growth in becoming a member of the Presidential Advisory Council on HIV and AIDS, having the privilege to serve on boards and commissions, but it's been a real journey and an adventure and an honor to watch and learn from my peers and my elders, or big brothers as I call them. And Cornelius Baker has been one of those instrumental figures who has remained committed to the fight for Black visibility and the liberation of Black LGBTQIA plus SGL. Cornelius has worked as a confidential assistant to the Assistant Secretary for Health in the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and worked at the National Association of People with AIDS, first serving as their policy director and later as their deputy executive director, and he finished his career there serving as their executive director. I really got to know Cornelius during his tenure where he served as Chief Policy Advisor at the U.S. Department of State for the Office of Global AIDS Coordinator. And today he now serves as the Special Advisor to the Office of AIDS Research and a PEPFAR liaison at the National Institute of Health. But if I could say something beyond the resume about Cornelius, is that he is a historian and an animator of history. I remember we were both part of a convening in Washington, D.C., organized by the O'Neill Institute at Georgetown Law, where I watched him deliver one of the most powerful and eloquent articulations of how the COVID-19 disparities in the Black community around this country are connected. And he vividly painted the picture of the health disparities and racial disparities that we see in the HIV field. But I think what it was most magical about his delivery was that Cornelius was able to contextualize and to connect the entire 500 years of Black history, from slavery to Jim Crow to the industrial complexes today of the prison system and the criminal justice system, the HIV industrial complex, and how all of these things are interconnected. And it really was a powerful moment for the entire room, and anyone who was there would agree it was a very powerful articulation of our story and how it shows up in health disparities today. But anyone who has ever had a meal with Cornelius or had a glass of Cabernet or got to debate or learn from him at a panel or a workshop or a convening, you will know that Cornelius has never missed an opportunity to share our history and to articulate our history in such a way that we might be able to call upon it and to use it as a resource, as an aid, as a guide. And certainly over the many years, it has been a tool that I have gone to in remembering our history. And particularly in the times where when you are young and trying to discover your own leadership, it is the words that your elders, your big brothers, your uncles, your aunties, your guides, it is the stories that they give to us. And Cornelius has always made that very clear as part of his advocacy. And so it is truly my honor and privilege to introduce the James Baldwin Legacy Award honoree, A. Cornelius Baker.
So much. And of course to NBJC, especially David and Victoria, for your efforts here today, and the AARP. When I received the award and the letter about the award a few months ago, I actually kind of have my nose out of joint. Even though I've been reading AARP and a member since I was 50 and doing my colonoscopies and everything, I wasn't prepared for that elder award yet. I did write a nice response back saying, "Oh, it's so kind of you. I am 59. If there are other people that you think, should qualify." And so they were very nice in writing me back and saying, "Oh no, you're old." And then they gave me the award. Last Friday, God humbled me. And on a beautiful, beautiful Friday morning in Provincetown, just outside the home of Douglas Brooks, I tripped and fell and broke my knee. And I feel like a 60-year-old, and I feel like an elder today. And while they have saved the leg from amputation, there's still a lot more work to do. Our people journey through many adversities before, so I could not be with you. Gabriel warmed my heart. It brings tears to me. The same way I felt yesterday talking to Mayor Reeves when he called just to check in to see how I'm doing. And I just want to leave us with 3 reflections for me on the meaning of all of this. Then one is to Mayor Reeves, and to be sitting here at the Brigham, having had my surgery, and one of the most notable hospitals in the country, and with their teaching staff from Harvard, other institutions. And Ken, having been mayor in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and at a time where he set so many reforms through Cambridge. And just this week, the Brigham announced their first African-American president and CEO will be arriving this fall. That work was laid out by Ken and what he did to change the culture here, and the work that has been being done in Massachusetts since 1670 by Phyllis Wheatley and others to change the culture of Massachusetts. And so I feel honored to be calling from this place. The other reflection that I have is how we are so best when we are with our full family. We have so many tensions about who does the work and which work in our community work. And so much of it is just silly. I was looking at a photo at the Brandywine last summer. It's an exhibit not often seen of 1954 on Montgomery March. And it was just a few weeks after we had been in Selma for John Lewis's funeral services there. And there's a scene where John Lewis didn't make the first day of Montgomery, made the second day. And he and A. Philip Randolph and Jimmy Baldwin are sitting out like at a ball stadium, just casually talking to each other, drinking a beer, enjoying life. Because the movement is about embracing each other, coming to know each other. And so we should always want to be in a room with an 80-year-old and a 70-year-old and a 40-year-old and a 20-year-old. And 20-year-olds, they need to go out and do some stuff for a while and let the 40 or 60-year-olds stay and talk, because we can't go out tripping on our legs and stuff. But then we come back together and we say, how is everything? That needs to be our vision of ourselves. There aren't many of us, but there are enough of us to do the work. And the last thing I would say, and sitting here in this place of joy, but tremendous pain and discomfort, is that we can never let discomfort not only not get in the way of the work, but our lives when we are best. And what we learned, particularly from Jimmy Baldwin, also A. Philip Randolph, is that we are best when we demand to present ourselves in the world as we choose to, in any way we choose to be, with whatever thoughts we have. And we do not limit ourselves because anyone does not want us to be that. We are free people. And so I take great honor at the company of men who've been cherished here this evening and being selected to be one. I hope I can age into the honor, live up to it, and always do good service for my people. I love you, and I thank you.
We love you, and we thank you, Cornelius Baker, and get well soon. Now it's my honor to introduce Benton Hill Jones, the founder and CEO of the Southern Black Policy and Advocacy Network. Benton has worked with various organizations, including National Black Justice Coalition, to help address the HIV epidemic and other health disparities. Benton will now toast a very familiar face. I actually remember him, again, when I was a kid, seeing him on television, advocating unapologetically for our people, and doing so with a dignity and with a passion that was unmatched. And so it's my pleasure to introduce Benton Hill, who will now toast founder and former CEO of the Black AIDS Institute, Phil Wilson.
Hello, my name is Benton Hill Jones, and I am the founder and chief executive officer of the Southern Black Policy and Advocacy Network in Dallas, Texas. Phil Wilson is an internationally renowned HIV/AIDS advocate and activist with over 30 years of public health leadership and impact. He is the founder and former president and CEO of the Black AIDS Institute, a think tank whose mission is to stop the AIDS pandemic in Black communities. Mr. Wilson has worked extensively in HIV policy, research, prevention, and treatment. In my career, I met Phil Wilson in 2008 as an alumni of the African American HIV University Community Mobilization College, a program of the Black AIDS Institute. Since meeting Mr. Wilson, I was in awe of not only his impact among Black gay men and other LGBTQ communities, but also just throughout the Black community and mobilizing a response to HIV when no one was speaking about these issues. In the 80s, Phil Wilson was at the forefront of addressing HIV and continued that leadership until his retirement, and even now continues to do the dynamic work of ending HIV as a pandemic. He is not only a dynamic advocate and activist, but to many, he is a mentor and friend, paving the way for many Black LGBT and other Black public health leaders to be able to continue the work of making Black communities healthy and whole. It is my honor and privilege to present to Mr. Phil Wilson the James Baldwin Legacy Award.
Thank you, Benton. Watching you today and having watched your career over these many years takes my breath away. I remember the young man that began AHU, the African American HIV University, so many years ago, and the energy and the ambition and the dedication and the commitment. And I am so proud to have known you and to know you, and so grateful for the work that you're doing today. I want to thank, of course, NBJC and ARP for including me in such a remarkable, remarkable group of leaders, brothers, as my friend Reggie Williams would say, bristers. It is so hard to imagine my name being included with the likes of Ahmad Diaye and Reggie and A. Billy and Keith and Kyler and Ernest and Cornelius and Mayor Reeves and Darren and, of course, the late Alvin Ailey. I am a Black gay man of a certain age, and for many of us, we understand that everything that you need to know, you can find in the lyrics of a Broadway musical. One of my favorite musicals is Hamilton. And towards the end of Hamilton, there is a phrase that George Washington says that you cannot control who lives, who dies, who tells your story. And so I want to thank NBJC and AARP, and I'm proud to be a member of AARP. I realize that so many of our brothers, so many of the men that we loved and mentored us, did not get to this point. I'm mindful today that we stand on the shoulders of Reggie Williams and Kalu Lester and Craig Harris and Marlon Riggs and Essex Hemphill and Rory Calhoun and so many others. When I was 10 years old, my grandfather died. And I remember sitting in my room crying and my mother coming into my room and asking me what was wrong and why I was crying. And I told her that I was crying because Big Daddy had died. And she looked at me and she said, "Don't cry for Big Daddy. He lived a long life. He made a difference. Don't cry for Big Daddy. You make a difference." And so all of us gathered here today have been fortunate enough to live a long life, to make a difference. And I am so grateful to all of my brothers, both those who are honored today and those who are going to be honored the next time you do this, and those who actually names will not be remembered, because you have all made a difference. You know, we are a part of a generation whose lives were defined by a global plague. As it happens, we've lived long enough to see a new generation whose lives are going to be defined by a global plague. And one thing that you learn when your life is forged by the fire of a plague is that there are those who sit and watch the fire burn. There are those who run away from the fire, and then those who run towards the fire. To the degree that we have survived that HIV/AIDS pandemic so far, to the degree that we will survive the COVID-19 pandemic, it is because, there were a group of us, I don't know if we chose to, if we were drawn to, but we ran towards the fire. I have a reoccurring dream. And in that dream, there is a little boy. And that little boy asked a wise old man, maybe that little boy is asking all of us, where were you during the plague years? Where were you when the house was on fire? I always wake up because I'm afraid of the answer. I am afraid that the answer will be not enough. And that's the challenge for leaders today, young people who are leading in magnificent ways, young people who are finding their way, young people who are finding their identity. When I share with my mother my sexual orientation when I was 23, she again looked at me like she did when I was 10. And she said, be yourself and make a difference. And that's the prayer that I have for all young LGBTQ, SGL, SLG loving people. You know, that to be yourself, to make a difference. Thank you so much.
Brother Phil Wilson, thank you so much for continuing to be such an inspiration to us all. It's now my honor to introduce the first openly gay Florida State Senator, Senator Chevron Jones. Chevron has continually advocated for racial justice and equality, for criminal justice reform, for public school funding, and economic justice, and has continued to make this his mission as senator. Senator Chevron Jones will now toast the first openly gay, same-gender loving person to serve as mayor of any U.S. city, Mayor Kenneth Reeves.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Chevron Jones, State Senator from Florida, proudly serving District 35, and it's my honor to present this year's James Baldwin Legacy Award. Regarded as one of the greatest 20th century writers, James Baldwin explored topics of race, social justice, and being Black and gay in America. His first novel, Go Tell It on the Mountain, in 1953 was a loosely autobiographical story based on his own father and religious identity. James Baldwin once said, those who say it can't be done are usually interrupted by others doing it. That is what we can say about this year's James Baldwin Legacy Award recipient. It's been said of this year's winner that he has for some time and continues to put his whole heart and soul into his community and drive for others to succeed. The first openly gay and same gender loving Black man to serve as mayor of any city in the US, and the first Black and first openly gay and same gender loving person to be elected as mayor in any city in Massachusetts. This year's recipient has served in leadership positions with organizations including Men of Color Against AIDS, the Black AIDS Institute, the National Black, Lesbian, and Gay Leadership Forum, and the National Black College Alliance. He served on the Cambridge City Council for 23 years, serving 8 consecutive terms from 1990 to 2013. And as an elected official, founded the W.E.B. Du Bois Academy for Adolescent Males of African Descent, the Cambridge Community Chorus, the Cambridge African American Heritage Trail, the Cambridge Men of Color Health Task Force, and the Cambridge Dance Complex. As mayor, he advocated for affordable housing, focused on economic development, fostered citizen empowerment, and encouraged ethnic and gender diversity. As a brother in the movement, it is my honor to give trailblazer Mayor Kenneth Reeves, former mayor of Cambridge, Massachusetts, and the first openly gay African-American man to serve as mayor of any U.S. city, his toast. Without his groundbreaking career in public service, I would not be where I am today in the Florida Senate. Ladies and gentlemen, please acknowledge this year's James Baldwin Legacy Award recipient, Mayor Kenneth Reeves.
Good. My heart is really full. I want to thank David Johns and Victoria Kirby York and the National Black Justice Coalition for this award, for celebrating the life of James Baldwin, who, by the way, would have been 97 years this month of August. And I also, I have to thank the reflection of having met James Baldwin. Ernest, you wouldn't meet them at Natalie's, but I had an opportunity to meet him at the Harvard Kennedy School at a forum, and I was just in awe. James Baldwin has been with me since I was an undergraduate at Harvard, for many years. And next to me is a portrait of him, which unfortunately the glare you won't have, but we in our house, Greg and I, look at him every day, and he has been an inspiration to us below these many years. This has been such a wonderful journey, but I have to say that sitting in this circle are men who have inspired me greatly and continue to inspire me. There's a group of us in this group who marched in 1995 in the Million Man March, in a contingent that was organized by the National Black Lesbian Gay Leadership Forum. And we were a group, I would say we were somewhere in the 40 to 60 range, all together behind a big banner that said who we were. And we marched and we chanted, we're Black, we're gay, and we wouldn't have it any other way. And when we went to DC for the Million Man March, we did not know what was going to happen to us. But we were not afraid. We had each other, and we knew that the truth was on our side. And I, for one, always knew that if Minister Farrakhan was going to have 1 million Black men come to Washington, I was not going to miss that, because I'm a Black man who believes in Black men and Black people and knows our role. And from that day, I have really understood in the most depthy way that the Black LGBT community cannot be separated from the larger, wider Black community, because we in many ways are a brain trust to that community. We need each other, and we will never be able to prosper if we are separate. So, and I believe that is known within our communities. I just wanted to say, Cornelius, it was so good to see how good you look even at the Brigham. And I want you to know that is my hospital, and I'm enrolled there with the Dana-Farber Institute. So good, you could not have chosen a better place to be. I did want to say, this life has often brought surprises and required you to step up to plates that you hadn't intended to be in front of you. And one I can talk about a second is that, it's not as well known as it should be, but the first same-sex marriage intentions that were given out in the country came in Cambridge. And that wasn't the work of just the white people. There was significant Black leadership in that movement. And in fact, in Cambridge, I said to our city clerk, I said, we have to open at 12:01 that night and begin to give out these marriage intentions. And she's a lovely person. She said, oh, well, Ken, the staff wouldn't like that. Family issues. I said, it's the same thing as slavery being over. You don't want to wait till 8 in the morning when you can begin at 12:01. And so those are little pieces. I do want to say that I'm encouraged as we go forward. I have an odd reaction to age, because I just figured we just keep doing our best and keep working hard. And I currently have a hat as the president of the Cambridge branch of the NACP, which is a marvelous 113-year-old organization that is still doing the work. But that organization has learned to embrace the Black LGBT community, and it is beautiful to participate in the work of the NACP with so many other great allies. So I think I'll have to land, but I would say this, Victoria Kirby York, your vice president, and I had a lovely conversation, and she was telling me about how many hundred Black LGBT elected officials there are today. And I think back to the wonderful, wonderful times I had with my dear, dear, dear brother, former New York City Councilor Phil Reed, who's no longer with us. But he used to say, Ken, we have to go to the meeting. We're the onlyest ones. And so now we wouldn't be the onlyest ones. And to know that we are now in numbers in the 100 is a great legacy and inspiration to go forward. We can and will do it. And we have been on this battlefield and we have been fighting. And there are results. And we can be glad in that. God bless you all. I love you.
We love you too, Mayor Reeves. Thank you for your work and your continued contribution. It is now my honor to introduce Edward Jones, the Vice President of Programs and Philanthropic Advising Services at ABFI, the Association for Black Foundation Executives. Edward is also a founding member of the Black Philanthropic Alliance and board member of Us Helping Us, People into Living, a regionally focused HIV/AIDS prevention and treatment organization. Edward is now going to toast the president of Ford Foundation, Darren Walker.
In 2014, the organization where I work, ABFI, a philanthropic partnership for Black communities, saluted Darren Walker when he ascended to the role of president of Ford Foundation. We honored him because he was doing honorable work, and we knew it would be work that would have far-reaching implications for not just our space, but the world at large. As we continue to live in a world that is increasingly prioritizing celebrity over humanity, it's what we know to be true that people like Darren are more needed now than ever. We need these spaces to be not just occupied, but also occupied with true mission. And because Darren, as we know, has come from humble beginnings, and we know that he had a family that prayed and stayed with him, he makes doing what he does right now look so easy. My name is Edward Jones, and I'm the Vice President of Programs and Philanthropic Advising Services at ABFI. And as a gay Black man, I know that this work, nor is this place called philanthropy an easy place to be. Nevertheless, Darren makes it look easy. He shows up and he shows out, as they say. And in so many ways, he has ascended to this leading role, which has become what all too often had been a dream of so many that have come before him and before me and other peers, Black peers in this field of philanthropy. Why that is important is because we know that Ford Foundation is one of those vanguard places that has been in the space of moving social justice for a long time. And there's periods in the history that it may have pivoted away. And knowing that now Darren is leading this charge, we would love to see so many more people get on what I'll call the Darren Walker train of social justice. Because we know that in the space that he occupies, that it's not just a job, but it's truly a life mission. And I know he shows it every day. And I think about when what I affectionately and other people affectionately call the Blacksonian, also known as the Smithsonian Museum of African American Heritage and Culture, was opening. I know I ran into Darren as he was walking into that space. And it was a proud moment. It was a proud moment for so many people. It was a beautiful day in Washington, D.C. And I just remember thinking that, Darren, this is a day for celebration for you because you were one of those folks that stood in line and stood up and made sure this investment was to be met by so many more people in order to bring an important museum, not just to the mall, but to the world to view. And so when I see Darren in this space we call philanthropy, I know I'm always met with a smile. And I know he has such a gracious presence. But I know too that the work, again, is not something that he's taken for granted. Just like I think about on that beautiful day in DC when that Smithsonian opened, we had President Obama and the First Lady there on the porch celebrating the opening of this space. And so many of us on the mall for days on end having a true family reunion. I know that place that is a repository for Black history was also built through the hands and hard work, through the time, talent, treasure, and testimony of people like you, Darren, who are celebrating, and not just celebrating, but making a commitment to not allow our history to be erased, not allow our history to be buried in the basement or someplace, but to be on full display for people to not only witness, but to celebrate and learn from. Darren brings such a rich and unapologetic presence to this profession called philanthropy. And I know when I think about and see recordings of James Baldwin, I know that he's now looking down smiling, because he was saying so many prophetic things that we didn't often understand until now. But we have people that are living and breathing and actually enacting the words that James has imparted upon us to truly lift up this work. And so why it's so important for all of us to embrace that, to know that we have awesome, great Black and unapologetically gay people that are standing in these spaces, standing for the future of our folks and for other folks that are connected to us in important ways. We know that this is the work that is God's work. And we know that this is the kind of people, the kind of folks that we need to be moving this work are people like Darren Walker. And as much of this land has been not the most welcoming place for Black people and for other people of color, it has also been a perpetually problematic place for LGBTQIA and same-gender loving people. And because those barriers haven't stopped Darren Walker from moving from his humble roots to the places where few Black people have been welcomed equitably, we know too that there is hope and opportunity in there. Darren, you embody the dreams of many generations. Your presence is this place and is in this place called philanthropy, which makes our ancestors proud. The role you hold is what the founders of AFV envisioned for this to be the rule, not the exception. And it is beautiful to be able to give awesome people their flowers while they are with us. So I joined the National Black Justice Coalition in recognizing Darren Walker as one of the James Baldwin Legacy Awardees. Darren, it is an honor to raise this glass to you, and I look forward to being able to do so in person soon. Here's to you, Darren Walker. God bless you, and please keep up the fight.
I am so honored to receive this award in honor of James Baldwin, my hero. I am so grateful to the National Black Justice Coalition for recognizing this extraordinary Black queer American. As another Black queer American, I am deeply gratified by the recognition and his legacy. The Ford Foundation, I'm proud to say, some 60 years ago, supported James Baldwin with a fellowship. I'm also thrilled because we are among this occasion an extraordinary group of honorees, and I am humbled to be a part of it, especially recognizing Alvin Ailey, the company, Alvin Ailey, the man, another great Black queer man, was also supported by the Ford Foundation. So this is a homecoming for me and for my colleagues at the Ford Foundation. James Baldwin was a national treasure. Like all great artists, Baldwin held the mirror up to America, and he demanded that this nation look at itself in its racist origins, in the cruelty, in the inhumanity that was exhibited towards African Americans. And yet he loved America. And it was because he loved this country that he demanded that this country live up to its ideals. The world, and certainly America, is a better place because James Baldwin lived. I, as a queer Black man, have him always in my mind. in my heart and my spirit as I look for inspiration and motivation, even in times of deep depression, dejection, and feeling demoralized by what we might experience on any given day in this world. I am inspired by his legacy. I'm so grateful for this honor, for this recognition on behalf of the trustees and my colleagues at the Ford Foundation. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
Wow, wow, wow. Such wise words. Congratulations again to Brother Darren Walker on a James Baldwin Legacy Award, well deserved. You might remember that earlier, Imam Da'i Abdullah was honored, and we had a little bit of a technical difficulty in terms of him joining us, but we wanted to make sure that we included his remarks. And so he shared his remarks for me to share with you on his behalf. And so, please know that Imam Da'i really wanted to thank Cedric for his honorific introduction and reflections on their relationship in the DC same gender loving work. Imam Da'i wants to encourage all of us to follow our dreams and to remember those whose shoulders we stand upon. Imam wants us to remember to remain humble. And as we're known to say, it's not all about you. It's about the crew of people who help you succeed. All that glitters is not gold. And, well, it's one thing to share his remarks. It's another thing to actually hear them from him. And so I think our technical challenge has been solved. Imam, are you with us?
This is Imam Da'i Abdullah, and I want to thank Cedric for his honorific introduction and reflections on our relationship in both the DC and national same gender loving work we've done together. I have a few tidbits that I'd like to share with you. One, I encourage all to follow their dreams and to remember those whose shoulders you stand upon. That means read about them, learn about them, and know that they may have solutions that you may be able to apply to your own problems and issues of your time. Remain humble. As we are known to say, it's not all about you. It's about the crew of people who help you succeed. So don't forget to mention them when you're being honored. They'll appreciate you a lot. All that glitters is not gold. Maintain your integrity and always err on the side of truth and honesty. There's no fault there. Finally, success is fleeting. There is a younger model right around the corner. So in seeking to do good and not glory, you will always be on the right path. People will remember the good you accomplished. So in ending, I want to thank you all again for this honor and look forward to hearing about the new successors of those who've come before you. Thank you.
And congratulations again to Imam Da'i Abdullah and to all of our honorees. I don't know about y'all, but my heart is full. It's full from all the nuggets of wisdom and how generous everyone has been with their stories and with their talents and with their activism. It really is true that on their shoulders we all stand and we stand tall. And so at this point, I want to hand it back to National Black Justice Coalition's Executive Director, our brother, David Johns. I also want to personally thank David and Victoria and the entire National Black Justice Coalition team for producing this event, for honoring those who carry the torch for so many in our community, and for outstanding and fierce advocacy for Black LGBTQ, same gender loving communities across the country and around the world. It is a high honor for AARP to partner with you and, more importantly, lock arms with you in the work ahead. And with that, I'd like to turn it back over to our brother with love, David Johns.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. Thank you for your stewardship of this program thus far today, for your friendship and for your leadership in the war more generally. I would often tell my students, I don't know, many of you know that I began my career teaching elementary school, kindergarten, third grade, to be specific, in Harlem, New York. And I would tell my students that real men wore pink, that real men were teachers, and real men cried. And I want to acknowledge being thankful for having tear ducts that work, and for each of you who inspired the tears that allowed me to release some things and also make space for things that the universe are sending our way. I, at this point, have the pleasure of introducing the award, which we have named the Alvin Ailey Glass Ceiling Award. And this first award goes to the man for whom the award is named. As many of you know, Mr. Ailey was a dancer, a director, a choreographer, an advocate, to some an agitator, very much a part of my spirit. And he founded the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater. And I recently had the pleasure of facilitating a talk back after a screening of the film Ailey with Mr. Battle, who you'll hear from in a second, and Jamila Wingott, the beautiful and brilliant producer of the film. And I said after the formal introduction that David, the young boy who remembers watching Ailey for the first time and appreciating that there were men who, much like me, moved through the world differently than many of the men that I saw through traditional media. And I appreciated that they showed up with this balance of both strength and softness that felt like a manifestation of a dream birthed by both God and our ancestors. And it is in that spirit and all of the feelings that I feel anytime I think about the legacy of Mr. Ailey and the work of the company under the leadership of Mr. Battle. And I invite you all to watch this trailer for Ailey the movie, which again was directed by Jamila Wingott. Following the trailer, you will hear from Brother Robert Battle, the director of the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater, who will accept the award posthumously on Mr. Ailey's behalf. Enjoy.
Do you feel as though you had to sacrifice anything to stay in dance? Everything.
The Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater is one of the most important contemporary dance companies in the world.
People were just, oh my God, they'd never seen anything like it.
Choreographers start with an empty space, a body or two, and we say, carve this space. I love creating something where there was nothing before.
I was born in the Depression, 1931, rural country, tough times.
When I was 14, I discovered the theater.
And it touched something in me, but there was no bodyguard.
Alvin entertained my dreams that a black boy could actually dance.
Being able to say through the choreography, I am, it transcends dance.
I had my own ideas.
Not just to do a step, but to feel something.
He was working at a feverish pitch, totally immersed.
People say, why is he doing that now? If you're a black anything in this country, people want to put you into a bag.
This is what he took up as his crusade. Alvin's protest was on the stage.
And I want to feel all the anger, the sense of cursing at the outside room.
I wanted to do the kind of dance that could be done for the man on the streets, the people, that it was part of their culture.
And that it was universal.
Wow. I'm Robert Battle, the Artistic Director of Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater. Thank you to the National Black Justice Coalition and David Johns for paying tribute to Alvin Ailey with the inaugural James Baldwin Legacy Award. It's a privilege to accept this on his behalf. It's been my great honor to lead the company over the past decade, moving his legacy forward as it continues to inspire, enlighten, and unite. Alvin Ailey was a trailblazing pioneer who found salvation through dance. The Ailey documentary, in theaters now, takes you on a powerful and poetic journey through his life. He overcame adversity at the cusp of the civil rights movement to bring his African-American heritage to the stage with dance theater that celebrated the enduring power of the human spirit. His generosity welcomed people of all backgrounds and provided a platform for others to share voices that needed to be heard. Alvin Ailey passed away of AIDS in 1989 on December 1st, World AIDS Day. But his spirit lives on in the Ailey organization through performances that uplift audiences and the educational programs that help young people unlock their true potential. An artist, activist, Alvin Ailey used dance as a weapon for change. And like the National Black Justice Coalition, he broke down barriers and built bridges. The writings of James Baldwin were an inspiration to Alvin Ailey in 1960 when he created his great masterpiece, Revelations, an acclaimed must-see that is a beacon around the globe. James Baldwin said, "The point is to get your work done, and your work is to change the world." At Ailey, the mission and the movement continues to open hearts and minds, pushing us forward into a better future. Thank you again to the National Black Justice Coalition for honoring Alvin Ailey with this award. Thank you for being a light in an often dark place. Thank you for shining a light on a dark face. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Battle, for the many ways in which you show up and show all the way out, and for being the trusted steward of Mr. Ailey's legacy. Thank you to you and all that you and your company are able to do. For everyone knows that NBJC at this point is a public policy organization, the nation's really only civil rights organization that will always remain intentional and unapologetic in standing at the intersections of racial equity and LGBTQ plus equality. And it would not be an NBJC event if we did not end with a call to action. And it is in this spirit that I invite my brother, literally my brother from another mother, shout out to Shelley Hunter, Dr. Marcus Anthony Hunter, who not only is a scholar, a brilliant bearer of Brother Baldwin's legacy. He has authored several books, including Chocolate Cities, which happens to be one of my favorites, as well as Black City Makers. Marcus is the first person to use the term Black Lives Matter, while it has been popularized by three of our brilliant sisters, two of whom also identify as queer. And Marcus also is a leader with the Breathe With Me Coalition, which is working to ensure that we all see the reparations that we and our ancestors so greatly deserve. It is with that introduction that I invite you to help welcome my brother, our brother, Marcus Anthony Hunter.
Thank you so much, David. I want to thank Victoria as well and all of the beautiful people who helped put this wonderful event together. I really would be remiss if I didn't just thank the ancestors, James Baldwin in particular, for whom this event is named for. When I first encountered him in college, where David and I first met at Columbia University, I was really moved by his second autobiography, where he talked about how we as Black people, and I've often thought we as Black gay folks, Black lesbians, Black queer folks have a special attitude that we bring to things. Because when we encounter literature, we often realize that we are not represented. So when I read Romeo and Juliet, I read it as something that is happening to other people who are not me. And as a result, I don't necessarily identify with it. And so I think when James Baldwin was here, he brought forward literature that really helped us see ourselves somewhere. And unfortunately, it took for someone like him or Langston Hughes and others, Lorraine Hansberry, to exist for us to see ourselves in our own culture. And it's with that that I make a point that all of the powerful people who are brought together today are aware of some ways that you can use your soapbox, use your platform to really amplify things that we as Black people really need. And that is, as David mentioned earlier, reparations, but also truth, racial healing, and transformation. And up on the Hill, we have Representative Sheila Jackson Lee pushing forward HR 40, but it's not without struggle. It's been a daily grind as the folks try to get people on board, and also with Representative Barbara Lee on truth, racial healing, and transformation. So we hear about reparations, we hear about truth commissions, but what many folks don't know is that a lot of folks don't really realize that there's legislation on the Hill that can be pressed forward. So my call to action is really for everyone here to really embody what James Baldwin represented, and that was putting his feet where his mouth went. So if he told us where the horizon was, he walked in that direction. So I come here today offering people a direction toward freedom and a pathway that I'm very grateful that the NBJC through David have already endorsed, but to bring to your attention that reparations and a truth commission and a host of other things, including the Voting Rights Act, are all hanging in the balance. It really requires all of us to use our power collectively to make sure that these things happen. Please share it, each one, teach one. And I'll end with something that the Spirit gave me many years ago that I repeat often in my classes, and that is each of us needs all of us. Thank you so very much, David, for the time and the opportunity to bring this forward and to be a part of this wonderful event. Peace, everyone.
Visit nbjc.org, our advocacy and action page, or to connect with Victoria Kirby York, who leads our advocacy and action work, to find out how you can get in the arena and to advocate for reparations around the Breathe With Me Coalition or any of the other issues that are priorities that we know would help to improve, again, opportunities and outcomes for the members of our beautifully diverse community. I want to thank everyone who has participated in today's James Baldwin Legacy Awards. I want to thank you all for making a difference, as Brother Wilson said, and I want to thank you all for carving space, in the words of Mr. Ailey. Before we close out today's event, I want to present our honorees with the gift of this work of art, which would be sent to each of you over the coming weeks. This is a piece that has been produced by love, or with love, by love, from a member of our broader community, Rebecca Crouch. She's a Black, same-gender-loving woman, a Howard graduate, and a friend to NBJC. She produced this piece, and we will be sending one to each of you all in the coming weeks. We hope you love it half as much as we do. To all of you who have joined us live or who will receive this at some point in the near future, I want to thank you for the gift of your time and attention. Uncle Jimmy once said that you have to decide who you are and force the world to deal with you, not its idea of you. And I want to thank each of you, our distinguished honorees, as well as the other brothers and communities who show up as prophets and gatekeepers, as torchbearers and truth tellers. I want to thank each of you for being brilliant and beautiful, for being Black and queer, same-gender loving, bi, trans, gay, or however you might identify yourself without apology. I want to thank you for all that you have done to improve outcomes and opportunities for members of our communities. And I want to thank you for the gifts that you have yet to bestow upon all of us. To Mr. Ailey, to Brother Baldwin, to Brother Byard, we celebrate you and will continue to labor in ways that honor your legacies. And we will endeavor to do this until we are all free. It is with this that I raise this glass and toast to each of you with the goal of us all being free. I want to thank you for joining us today for this event. I want to thank you for your leadership and your legacy, and I want to thank you for your support of NBJC. Have a great day.